Good morning from beautiful Brisbane, Australia. How are you this morning? It's wonderful to be here with you, and it's hump day. Yay! Now, it's a bit chilly this morning, and we're loving it. Welcome, as we're going to go through why is the phrase "I am safe" so valuable to us with complex PTSD. If you're here for the first time, welcome. It's great to have you joining our class. If you're here and you're here for class, say g'day and let me know where you're from. Remember to like and share and subscribe, and it helps other people who have yet to know this information. Remember, it's all very, very new, and we're at the front line, which is exciting too, of all the new information. Plus, it's invaluable because I've walked this journey as well. I'm able to give you even deeper insights into what it means as we literally walk it through day by day. So I went through, in part of my journey around 7-8 years ago, I became aware that breathing was important. Apart from the fact that we need to breathe, the breathing was important, that from the perspective that ultimately, if we were to breathe in 5 seconds and breathe out 5 seconds and do that all day, that's an optimal breathing rate. So optimal for our health, optimal for every facet of our life. But we don't do that. Now, if you look at the fact that we don't do that just as a normal person, as in a person who hasn't experienced trauma and they're going about their day-to-day life, they don't breathe 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out. And we definitely don't do that because we have a whole lot of factors that are involved, one of which is dissociation. Now, and the dissociation is unconscious. So one of the first things I did when I heard that 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out was ultimate. The best breathing rate for our health. I began to set aside 1 minute out of a whole day when I went to bed. And I began to teach myself to breathe in and out for 5 seconds for 1 minute. So that's literally 6 breaths in and out. And then as I went on, I was able to extend it. But here's the secret. We have to be willing to feel the breath going in and out and feel where our body is tight, because we want to be able to choose to consciously relax that part of our body, okay? We want to be able to say, "Ooh, I'm holding on to a lot of tension in that area." Now, the first one for me was my throat. I couldn't believe how hard it was to literally breathe in and out and have a relaxed throat. It was mind-boggling. I was shocked. And it took me some time to be able to focus my mind on my breathing and get into the habit of doing the 1 minute every night. But what I found was, over time, was each time that I did this, because it's optimal breathing, it became easier for me to fall asleep. So not only would I extend it for more than 1 minute, I would actually be able to extend it and fall asleep. And then what happened was, it became a rare night that I wouldn't fall asleep whilst doing the breathing. But then what happened was, I was actually able to recognize that I was literally waking up 20 minutes after I fell asleep. Now, because of the breathing, normally without the breathing, I just get up and go to the loo and come back to bed and go to sleep. But because of the breathing, I was able to begin to recognize definite patterns that were happening in my life, i.e., I would literally wake up 20 minutes after falling asleep. So I knew then that there was something happening 20 minutes after falling asleep that I needed to address. but I continue to do the breathing, okay? So that was the first stage of me being able to take hold of consciously developing, not just the breathing, but consciously developing an awareness of my body. Over time, a couple of the other things I learnt was that if I'm feeling tense or stressed, my hands are clenched, and it took a considerable amount of time and being aware of the internal, what was happening for me internally before I could actually feel that my toes were clenched as well. And I want you to use this as a takeaway that we don't actually realise how much we're holding our bodies so tightly. So the next thing that happened was I'd go out, and I couldn't go out on my own. I'd always have one of my kids with me, so I couldn't do the shopping because it was too overwhelming. And so I had the breathing help me overcome the anxiety. But then I'd go out and do things that I'd been doing for a while. This is progressing over time. And I would all of a sudden out in the middle of nowhere start not being able to breathe and start having an anxiety attack, literally, like wanting to shut down, send me home, perspiring profusely. I'd go somewhere new and people would be looking at me like, why are you perspiring like this, And we're in air conditioning, and I didn't I didn't know how to say, look, I'm having a response to the overwhelm here. Even though I, as an adult, feel fine, there's still part of my whole neurological wiring that doesn't feel safe, right? I didn't have this language. So therefore, the trigger response has gone off at the brain level, at an unconscious level, and because as an adult I'm choosing to stay here and, do gym, or I'm choosing to stay here and continue having a conversation with this person that, in an environment that I know I'm perfectly safe with, I wouldn't say anything because I didn't understand myself how I can be having an anxiety attack, yet as an adult I knew I was safe. So what happened was, through all the study that I've done, one of the things that came about is the understanding that in our childhood we develop this automatic trigger, and one of the first things is it's like a radar. All our sensory information is stored in our amygdala, and the minute our brain perceives we are unsafe, that trigger goes off. So I went, okay, in order to turn this around, I have to be willing to teach myself I am safe. So not I as in Linda, the adult, but my whole internal system. I am safe to be here, and I'm safe to breathe. Now, what you're going to find is when you do this and you start building your conscious awareness around your breath, is that you begin to realize you're either holding your breath or you're breathing very, very shallow. So this is why it's important to develop an awareness around our breathing, because we've spent so many decades holding our breath to get through stuff and we didn't know it, and holding our bodies so tight to get through whatever the stress is, holding our internal system tight to make it through the one next step. And it's become so automatic, so unconsciously automatic, that we haven't had the language, we haven't had the knowledge to say, right, I've got, not only do I need to develop a deeper awareness of myself internally, I've got to be willing to build an awareness of when I'm holding my body tight and using that as a signal to look around and go, okay, I may not know why my internal system is going off and believing that I'm unsafe. And this can happen in situations where you're there repeatedly. So for me, this would happen at gym, that all of a sudden I'm shaking, and it's like having a mini epileptic seizure. And I'm like, what the heck happened? And this whole process is so unconscious. We are so unaware of it that I would be going, oh my goodness. And I'd examine my breathing. I'm like, I can't breathe. I'm not getting air in. And that's what was causing the epileptic-like seizures, when my brain all of a sudden thought that I was unsafe. So I would start breathing, and one of the things that's good to do too is drink. I obviously at gym I have water, so I'm drinking water, because when we do that, we're enforcing our muscles to engage in what we're doing, okay? So I will do this at gym to help me get deeper breathing happening of a morning. Is I'll drink a few good mouthfuls of water, and it's like, I've got to breathe, I've got to let it in. And it's like letting life in, okay? And yeah, that's right, Tracy. Said I have to remind myself of this daily. You're right, I automatically tighten up and cannot breathe at times. And that's right. If we can go and understand that this is unconscious and automatic, then we can develop a process of turning it around so that when it happens, the turnaround time is less and less and less. Okay, so I built into my life this awareness of when I'm becoming tense, rather than waiting to the point where I'm actually not breathing. I'm holding my breath, automatically. So and one of the things that I did start to do as well is look around and breathe and say to myself, I am safe. And build that feeling into ourselves that I am safe. I'm the adult here. I can manage this. I am safe. Okay? So we want to be able to understand that it's our senses that are driving the trigger in our brain. So it's not our fault. It's not something we've got control over happening, the initial happening. But what we do have control over is building a deeper awareness and changing up the physicality of what's happening, so that the more we do it, the better and our response time is for it all to relaxing. So we're not continually in stress mode, unconsciously and automatically. Now, when we do this, it makes it easier to do things like go to bed and go to sleep, okay? Sometimes it's not. When things are going to come up, when our body's going to release stuff, it can be a period of time where we have to understand that we're not going to have our regular sleep pattern. But because we know our rhythm, we're going to say, okay, something's coming up, the body's releasing stuff. I'm okay because I'm in charge of what's happening, and I'm just going to be very, very gentle with myself and let it come up bit by bit by bit. And for me, doing the trauma-informed movement means that my brain actually begins to process it in an order that I didn't have when I was a child. So what I did was I did an infographic for us to see if we're motivated by fear. And it's not to say, okay, you're motivated by fear, that's a bad thing. With complex PTSD, we want to turn it around and use the information to help us identify when fear is the motivator so that we can turn it around, okay? So if you're preferring to be safe rather than try something new, then you want to sit down and identify the fear, okay? Because you're the adult now and you get to choose to go out and try something new. Now, one of my clients, they could never leave their house, all right? So what we did was, this is a number of years ago now, but what we did was we did a Facebook Live video chat, and she went through and talked through all the emotions as we talked through getting her out the front door. And the first time we got to the front door, but the next time we got out the front door and for her to sit on the porch. Do you know what I mean? And this is what we need. We need this connection so that we can have the strength to know that we're safe to take this one next step. Okay? Are we believing everything is dangerous and there are no benefits to me pushing myself forward? So that's another fear factor that can drive us. Are we unable to make decisions? Are we frozen? I know that a lot of people struggle with being unable to make decisions. I know I went through a time when it took me time to make decisions, and now I have to slow myself down and get back on track, because sometimes I can go, okay, let's go off and, go on a wild adventure. And then I have to remember, no, I've got a plan, stick to the plan. Are we settling rather than aiming higher? And we have to ask ourselves that question. If you want to settle, that's okay. But we have to be willing to ask the question in order that we know whether we're pushing ourselves because no one else can do it for us. Okay? And step out of my comfort zone so that I can experience more healing. Do you have long-term thinking or planning? And it doesn't mean that we're going to do it the typical way of, right, I have a 5-year plan and this, and this is going to happen. Actually, as we're moving forward, so we want to be able to go, I want long-term thinking, but I also want to put strategies in where I'm taking one step at a time so that this time next year I look back and see that, yes, I have improved. I hope that makes sense for you. So we don't want to overstress and then make sure that we, go into a chaotic situation and self-sabotage and then then put it all down and don't look at it again. We want to go, yes, I have a dream. I have a long-term plan to buy and own a house. So then I'm going to put in the steps, one step at a time, so that I feel comfortable to make them. One of our primary things that we need to ask, am I living behind a mask? And if you are, you need to go into the academy and do my Authentic Self course, because that's specifically what it's made for. So that you can come out from behind your mask and live a full life. But first of all, you've got to be willing to have that level of honesty with yourself that you're living behind a mask. Are you a perfectionist in order to avoid criticism? A really precious part of our growth is giving up inflexible thinking, which drives the perfectionism, in order that we allow ourselves to have a messy life where we make beautiful mistakes. And we go, yeah. Because if we don't do that, then we can't step on into the next stage of being able to say, like Nick and I this morning, we were talking away, we were up at, we couldn't sleep this morning. And I went off to gym at I don't know, I think it was 4 a.m. Could have been earlier, I'm not sure. And I came back and we were chatting and I just said, oh, he's been really lovely and saying nice things to me. I said, yeah, but I'm just waiting for the, crunch to drop. Like, what are you going to say next to take that away? Now, I could never have said that once upon a time, right? I never would have been able to articulate that I'm worried what's coming next. And if we don't put down the perfectionist ball in order to avoid criticism, we can't have very real and raw conversations with people that we're in close relationship with in order that the relationship grows and develops, okay? In order that we address what's happening for us internally. So I really recommend that you look at the perfectionist stuff. And I had no clue, absolutely no clue years ago, that I never used to talk. This is in my 20s, just yesterday, you know. I never used to talk unless I knew I was right. And I didn't know that it was one way of keeping me safe. Okay, I was trying to keep me safe. Are we procrastinating to be safe? Are we putting stuff off in order that I will feel safe? So can you see how vital it is to use the I am safe and start building it into your life and then breathing in and out that I am safe? Okay, it also builds up our courage and self-confidence because we're taking charge, all right? And last but not least, are we avoiding change of any kind? And sometimes the change may not be the physical. It may be that I have to be willing to change my perception around something, okay, in my day-to-day life. So do I need to change my perception around who I am as a mum? And I've had to do that along the way. Do I need to change my perception around my work or my relationships? And this is the hard part for us with complex PTSD. Until we know that we need to change perceptions, we don't know. But it's something that we can definitely work on and work towards taking that one next step. So your takeaway today is the fear factors, and I will put this infographic up on the business page so that you can see it and examine it and talk to your significant other about it and say, this is one that I want to start addressing in my day-to-day life, all right? I think there's 9 on there. You don't need to do all 9 at once, just one. And start relaxing and making it work for you, okay? All right, remember you are loved and you belong, and thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.